Hello, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Martin, and you are currently watching the first out of a few videos to introduce you to the OPAC. And OPAC is short for the Online Public Access Catalog. I am on a computer here at school, so I'm going to show you first how to get to the OPAC from a school computer. The OPAC allows you to see what resources are available to you from the Grosse Pointe public libraries. We do all share our collections, and we all use the OPAC. The libraries include all of the Grosse Pointe Elementary School libraries, all of the Grosse Pointe Middle School libraries, all of the Grosse Pointe High School libraries, and the 3 public libraries. And you're able to find items that we own, such as books, DVDs, recordable books, books that you can download, games that you can check out, and much, much more. Our focus will be on looking for books today, which is what we want to get into your little own hands. So if you are at a computer at school, to get to the library catalog, the OPAC, you take your mouse and you position it over the Start button on the bottom left-hand corner and push Start. From the mini menu that appears, you want to go up to the top and choose Library Media Centers. I'm going to move my mouse up to the blue bar at the top, and I'm going to double click it. That'll make it nice and big. By clicking Start Library Media Centers, I am brought to the library reference source page, and if I scroll down, you're going to see all kinds of little images that are actually resources online that you can go to get all kinds of helpful information. Depends on how old you are, which resource you'll use, and what the information need is that you have. But today, we're going to go to the library catalog, and at some point throughout your career here in Grosse Pointe, you should be exposed or learn how to use all of these wonderful tools. The library catalog or OPAC link is right here where you see my mouse. I'm going to click on it. And then again, I'm going to double click my blue bar. That'll make that screen nice and big. There are 5 different types of searches that you can do using the OPAC: a title search, an author search, a subject search, a keyword search, and an advanced search. We're going to do a couple of videos. This is the first one of this set. So today we're going to focus on title searching and keyword searching. And other videos will come on down the line with the other types of search methods for you to learn. You should notice that the word title is in black, and that is because it is what we call the default search, which means most people, when they come to the OPAC, want to search for an item by its title. So since it's the most common type of search, it's the one that you pop up to when you open up the library catalog. If you look below your search box, you will see a handy dandy little tip. And that'll remind you or give you a little suggestion as to what to type in when you're doing a title search. It says, type as much or as little of the title as you want. For example, you can type in the full title, and here's an example of a full title. You can type in part of the title that you remembered, but not all of it. Whatever you do remember, you can simply type in, or maybe just the beginning. The more you type into your search box of the title, the less work you'll have to do on the next page. The less information you type in into your title search box, the more work you'll have to do on the next page. Either way, you'll get to what you're looking for. Might just take you another minute or so, depending on what you type in. You should have noticed down here with this particular title that was an example, there are no capitals, because capitals really don't matter when you're doing a search. Spelling counts, and the order of the words in the way they appear in the title count. So we're going to practice searching for a book called Big Anthony and the Magic Ring. And I know that that is the exact title, and I know it is truly called Big Anthony and the Magic Ring. The words appear directly in that order. So I'm going to go ahead and type in that title. Make sure I'm clicked inside my search box. Again, capitals don't matter. Spelling does, so I want to focus on spelling. Okay. Once I type in the title that I'm looking for, I hit my submit button. And you will see that I have now been brought to the record for this particular item. All of this information that you see here on the page tells you all about this particular item. If I click on this picture, it'll simply show me a large image of the cover of that particular book, which is nice to see sometimes. I'm going to hit my back button over here in the upper left-hand corner in blue so I can go back to the main record page. Now, getting back to the more information you give, the less work you have to do later. Here's an example. I typed in the full title and it immediately brought me to this screen with all of this information on this particular book. I'm going to go and show you what happens when you only type in part of the title. I'm going to push my start over button right here. Let's say I only remember part of the title, but not all of it. I'm going to type in what I do remember. In my search box, I remember the name of the book was Stregonona something, something, something. But I remember it began with Stregonona, those words in that order. So I'm going to type in what I remember, part of the title. And then I'll hit my submit button. And this is what I meant about having to do a little more work when you give the catalog a little less information. Now I have to take a minute to go ahead and read through all of these items that begin with the words Stregonona. And I have to find the one that I was looking or trying to find. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to choose Stregonona, her story. And I'm going to click on it. And when I do, it'll now bring up the record for that particular book. If I want to see the cover again, I can move my mouse over to the cover and click on it once. I'll see a nice big image. To get back to the record of this particular book, your blue arrow in the upper left-hand corner. Now let's take a second to talk about all this information you see on this record for Stregonona, her story. At the top, I'll see the author's name. Last name is listed first, followed by their first name. Below that, I'll see the title of this book. Below that, I will see all kinds of information about who printed this book, where, and when. It was printed in New York by a publishing company called G.P. Putnam, and it was published or first printed in the year 1996. That C stands for copyright date. The information at the top always remains at the top. The information below about this particular book changes depending on which of these 4 tabs you push. Right now, I am looking at the copy status information for Stregonona, her story. I can see what libraries own a copy of this book. I can see where that book would be located in that library. And I can see the status of that item, whether it's on the shelf, checked out and due back on a certain date. Sometimes you may see the words in transit. That means that one library in the Grosse Pointes is sending that book to another library in the Grosse Pointes to borrow. So that kind of gives you an idea of where that book is at any particular point in time. I'm going to highlight the line for Fairy, and we'll talk about what we see. Fairy has 1 copy of this book because I only see the name listed once. If I saw Fairy book 2 times, it means that we would have 2 copies. If I saw it 3 times, it means that we would own 3 copies. On that same line where it says Fairy book, I see the call number for this book at Fairy. That is that little white label on the spine of a book. And we all have, all of our books have labels on them. This book in Fairy would say E-D-E-P. E tells you it's in the Everybody section of the library. So you'd start looking for that book there. Once you got to the Everybody section of the library, you'd start to look for D-E-P, the first 3 letters of the author's last name. Once you find those, and there'll be several of them because he's a very, very well-known author, you can look on the spines and look for the title, Stregonona, her story, and you'll find that book. And you know you'll find that book because the status says it is on the shelf. So it should be sitting there waiting for you if you happen to be at Fairy right now. Okay, I'm going to click on more details and I'm going to show you what changes on the bottom part of the screen. Again, the author, title, printing information all stays. It's the bottom part that changes. Here I'm going to see some new information. I'm going to see some additional details about this book. I have a line called Descript, which is short for description, and I will see the number of pages in this book. Right now it says unpaged, and that's because this is an Everybody picture book, and in most cases they do not have page numbers. So we'll see unpaged often for our Everybody picture books. If it is a longer book that has page numbers, you'll see a number followed by the letter P. So for instance, if it said 100P, that means that that book would have 100 pages in it. Next to the pages, you will see, or you won't see, these letters. For this particular book, COLILL tells you that this book has colored illustrations. Sometimes you might just see the letters ILL, and that tells you that that particular item you're looking at has illustrations, but they're not in color. Sometimes you won't see anything here at all, and that means there are no illustrations in that item. And lastly on this line, you'll see the height of that book. Not so important to you, but librarians may find it helpful, so it's included on the screen. The second line has a very important bit of information. It is a one-sentence summary that very quickly tells you what is happening in this particular item, in this particular book. I always suggest that when you're doing a search to come to more details and check the number of pages to make sure it's not too much or not too little for you, and check the summary and just make sure it's something that interests you before you spend the time going over to the shelves to find them. I'm now going to click on Find Similar Items, and this is a really interesting tab. When I click Find Similar Items, I will see one bit of information that I think is very important to let you know about, and that's called the subject. Many times a book can be about more than one subject. In this particular case, this book is about 4 different subjects. It's about Stregonona, a fictitious character. It's also about grandmothers, and it's fictional. It's also about magic, and it's fictional. It's also about healing, and it's fictional. I always point out this tab because I like to suggest that if you're reading a book that you really enjoy and you just finished it and you liked it so much and you want to find something similar, I always suggest pull up the book that you really enjoyed. Let's pretend it's Stregonona, Her Story. Click on Find Similar Items and then look at the subject for that particular book. Pick the subject that most interested you in the book. Let's say you really loved it because it was a fictional book about magic and you would like to get another fictional book about magic. All you need to do is click on that particular subject. And you will see on the next screen that there's lots and lots of items that are also fictional books about magic. There's a little gold box around that subject, and then you'll see a number. There are 1,418 other items owned by the Grosse Pointe Libraries that are also fictional books about magic. To see them, I'll take my mouse and I'm going to click where it says Magic Fiction. And I'll give it a second. Here are the first 50 books owned by the Grosse Pointe Libraries that are fictional books about magic out of the total 1,418. Okay. Later on, I'll show you how to whittle this big number down to just the ones that are at the library that you're sitting at. But that's a little bit later. Let's take a look at this big list of 50 books. I'm going to scroll down just so you can see some of them. And I want to point out that you'll see a cover, you'll see the title, you'll see the author, you'll see the printing information, but you'll also see a little icon. And that icon will tell you what this particular item is. This particular item on line 8 is a book. If I scroll down, I'll see this particular item on line 14 is a recorded book. This particular item, that's a fictional book about magic, on line 16 is a downloadable book. So, I mentioned in the beginning there's many more items in the libraries other than books, although books are obviously number one, first and foremost, but we do have additional items for boys and girls to check out, and that's how you can tell the difference. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the top, and I'm going to start over. Because now I want to explain the difference between choosing a title search or a keyword search. I'm going to click on keyword, and I'll tell you why it's a good way to search, especially when you don't remember the full title. If you have a particular item that you can only remember bits and pieces of the title, but not the whole title, do a keyword search. And let me give you an example. Let's say someone told you about this wonderful, wonderful book called The Tale of Despero, being the story of a mouse, a princess, some soup, and a spool of thread. That's a really long title to remember those words in that exact order. So if you can remember bits and pieces of the title, a keyword search can still find that item for you. Click on the keyword tab like I just did, and in the search box, you'll position your cursor, and you're going to type in the important keywords that you remember. I remember hearing the word mouse in the title, so I'll type it in, and I'll hit the spacebar. I remember hearing the word princess in the title, so I'll type it in, and I'll hit the spacebar. Again, capitals don't matter, spelling does. I remember hearing the word soup in the title, so I'll type it in and hit the spacebar. And, you know, I remember hearing the word thread in the title, so I'll type that in. I also remember hearing the word Despero, but for many people, that's a difficult word to spell, so type in the ones that you know how to spell, and you're still going to get the same result. After typing in these few words that I remember, now I'm going to hit the submit button. And I'll give it a second. And now I can see that the catalog has found me 3 items that share those words. The Tale of Despero being the story of a mouse, a princess, some soup, and a spool of thread. This one's a downloadable version of this book. This one is the actual book. This one is the recorded book. If I want to find out what libraries own the book version, I click on the title. And I'll give it a second. And I'll see which libraries own it, whether it's on the shelf, what section of the library it would be in, and all that good, helpful information for me to go and get that book by myself in the library. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial on doing title searches and keyword searches, and you'll get some practice trying title searches and keyword searches on your own. Some more videos will be following soon to teach you how to do the other search methods using the OPAC. Good luck and happy searching.